Even in 2025, with Bitcoin hitting new all-time highs, a strategic Bitcoin reserve established by the US government, and major institutions like BlackRock managing billions in Bitcoin ETFs, I still hear the same tired old myths being repeated everywhere. It's only used by criminals. It's destroying the environment. Governments will eventually shut it down. The gap between Bitcoin's reality and the public perception remains enormous. And it's not just from crypto skeptics. I hear these myths repeated by financial advisors, journalists, and even people who own Bitcoin. And today, I'm going to debunk the 7 biggest myths about Bitcoin that refuse to die, with actual facts, real data, and zero hype. If you are tired of hearing your uncle at Thanksgiving explain how Bitcoin has no real value, or your coworker insists that it's all just a Ponzi scheme, then this video is your ammunition for the next conversation. So let's set the record straight. Let's start with everyone's favorite myth. Bitcoin is mainly used for criminal activity. This one is everywhere, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. According to Chainalysis data, less than 0.24% of cryptocurrency transactions in 2022 were linked to illicit activity. That's less than the percentage of illicit activity in the traditional banking system. Think about it logically. If you were a criminal, would you prefer A, cash, which is completely anonymous, untraceable, and universally accepted, or B, Bitcoin, where every transaction is recorded on a permanent, public ledger that can be analyzed by law enforcement? Criminals overwhelmingly prefer cash, and it's why the $100 bill is the most widely circulated US denomination, despite most Americans rarely using it. Bitcoin has actually become one of law enforcement's most powerful tools. The FBI, IRS, and other agencies routinely use blockchain analysis to catch criminals. The Colonial Pipeline hackers were caught specifically because they used Bitcoin. The public nature of the blockchain makes it terrible for crime. It's like robbing a bank while being recorded in 4K from multiple angles and then leaving your DNA, fingerprints, and your home address at the scene on a sticky note. Now for a big one. Bitcoin is destroying the environment. Yes, Bitcoin uses energy, and that's not a bug, it's a feature. Securing the world's first digital monetary network requires energy, just like securing our physical banking system requires energy. But the narrative that Bitcoin is an environmental disaster is deeply misleading, and here's why. First, Bitcoin is energy agnostic. Miners seek the cheapest energy available, which increasingly means renewable or otherwise wasted energy. According to the Bitcoin Mining Council, approximately 54% of Bitcoin mining already uses renewable energy, and is growing. This is far higher than the average US energy mix, and the best mix of any industry on planet Earth. Second, Bitcoin mining is uniquely positioned to utilize energy that would otherwise be wasted. In West Texas, for example, miners act as flexible load for the grid, consuming excess wind and solar energy when it's abundant, and shutting down during peak demand. In oil fields, miners capture flared methane, turning a potent greenhouse gas into useful work. And third, the comparison isn't Bitcoin versus nothing. It's Bitcoin versus the alternative financial system. The banking industry, with its thousands of buildings, millions of employees commuting, ATMs, data centers, and security infrastructure, consumes far more energy than Bitcoin. The difference is that Bitcoin's energy usage is transparent and measurable, while traditional finance's impact is distributed and hidden. When you compare Bitcoin's energy usage to its potential to transform the global monetary system, the trade-off starts to make a lot more sense. It's not about using no energy. It's about using energy efficiently for systems that create significant value. Myth number 3, governments will eventually shut Bitcoin down. This myth is particularly persistent, but it fundamentally misunderstands both how Bitcoin works and how government incentives are evolving. First, let's address the technical reality. Bitcoin is not a company or a centralized service. It's a decentralized protocol running on thousands of computers across every country in the world. There's no CEO to arrest, no headquarters to raid, no central server to shut down. Trying to ban Bitcoin is like trying to ban the internet or email. A government might declare it illegal, but enforcing such a ban is practically impossible. As long as someone somewhere has an internet connection and the Bitcoin software, the network continues on. Even China, with the world's most sophisticated internet censorship infrastructure, hasn't been able to completely stop Bitcoin usage despite its 2021 ban on exchanges and mining. People simply moved their operations elsewhere. But more importantly, the game theory has fundamentally changed. Government incentives are shifting from opposition to strategic adoption. The United States has established a strategic Bitcoin reserve. El Salvador has made Bitcoin legal tender, and countries like Switzerland, Singapore, and Dubai are creating regulatory frameworks to attract Bitcoin businesses. Central banks worldwide are studying and in some cases accumulating Bitcoin. When President Trump signed the executive order establishing America's strategic Bitcoin reserve, it marked a pivotal shift in how governments view digital assets. As the executive order stated, it prevents the government from selling Bitcoin that it already has and authorizes exploring ways to acquire additional Bitcoin. The new game isn't about shutting Bitcoin down. It's about which countries will accumulate it fastest. The first governments to embrace Bitcoin stand to benefit enormously if it succeeds globally, while those that resist may find themselves at a significant strategic disadvantage. As U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent put it during the White House Crypto Summit, President Trump is creating assets for the American people, while most past presidents have created debt. Myth number 4. Now, this is my personal favorite. Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. This criticism reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about what gives money value. The US dollar, for example, has no intrinsic value either. It's not backed by gold or any tangible asset since 1971. It's only valuable because people accept it as payment and governments demand taxes in it. So what gives Bitcoin value? Well, it's the same things that have always made good money valuable. Scarcity, because Bitcoin has absolute scarcity with a fixed supply of 21 million coins. Durability, because digital code doesn't degrade. Portability, because you can send any amount globally in minutes. Divisibility, because each Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million units. Verifiability, because the blockchain makes counterfeiting impossible. And fungibility, where each unit is equivalent to another. Add to these traditional monetary properties something unprecedented, which is a global decentralized network that enables permissionless transfer of value without third parties, and the network effect of millions of users, thousands of developers, and billions in infrastructure investment creates a tremendous utility and value. Just like the internet itself doesn't have intrinsic value, but enables tremendous value creation, Bitcoin's protocol enables a new financial system. Bitcoin mining is what helps secure that network while allowing clients like ours at Abundant Mines to acquire Bitcoin itself at a 30 to 90% discount to market prices. And this is why professional mining operations are becoming such strategic assets. Next up is that Bitcoin is too volatile to be real money. And this criticism misunderstands both what makes money valuable and how new technologies develop. Yes, Bitcoin is volatile, though that volatility has decreased significantly over time as the market has matured. But volatility itself doesn't disqualify something from being money. The British pound, for example, lost 30% of its value against the dollar in 2022. The Turkish lira lost over 80% of its value in 5 years. Volatility is relative. And Bitcoin's volatility is actually expected and totally normal for the early stage adoption of a new monetary technology. Early internet stocks, for example, were incredibly volatile too. Amazon dropped over 90% during the dot-com crash. But that didn't mean that the internet and its largest companies weren't valuable. It meant that the market was still figuring out its value. And what's remarkable is that despite this volatility, people in high inflation countries like Argentina, Turkey, Nigeria, and Lebanon increasingly use Bitcoin as a store of value. When your own national currency is losing 50 to 100% of its purchasing power every year, Bitcoin's volatility looks like stability by comparison. And as adoption increases and the liquidity deepens, Bitcoin's volatility continues to decrease. We're watching the monetization of a new asset class in real time. Volatility is part of that process, not evidence against it. Myth number 6 is that it's too late to invest. Another persistent myth is, I already missed the boat on Bitcoin. It's too late to invest. This thinking leads people to chase whatever new cryptocurrency is being hyped, rather than understanding Bitcoin's unique position and adoption curve. The reality is that less than 5% of the global population owns any Bitcoin at all. Major institutional adoption is just now beginning, and most financial advisors still don't recommend Bitcoin allocation. Retirement accounts and pension funds are only just starting to explore Bitcoin exposure. Think about it this way. If Bitcoin truly succeeds as digital gold or even a global monetary network, we're still in the very early stages of adoption. You wouldn't look at the internet in 1997 and say, it's too late to invest in internet companies, just because Netscape had already gone public. This doesn't mean that Bitcoin will deliver the same percentage returns as its first decade. That would be mathematically impossible as the market cap grows. But the idea that all the gains have already been had fundamentally misunderstands Bitcoin's adoption trajectory and its context in global assets. In fact, professional Bitcoin mining represents one of the most attractive entry points today. Participating allows our clients to acquire Bitcoin at a significant discount to market prices, while also building infrastructure for the future. It's almost like hopping into a time machine and buying Bitcoin at last year's prices on a daily basis. Finally, the persistent myth that Bitcoin is banned. I still hear this all the time. Isn't Bitcoin illegal, or didn't China ban it? Here's the reality. Bitcoin is perfectly legal in most major economies, including the United States, Canada, the European Union, the United Kingdom, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and most of South America. Yes, China banned cryptocurrency exchanges and mining in 2021, but even there, they didn't criminalize simple ownership. And for every restrictive country, multiple others are embracing Bitcoin. El Salvador, for example, made Bitcoin legal tender in 2021. The United States government now holds Bitcoin in its strategic reserve. BlackRock, Fidelity, and other major financial institutions offer Bitcoin ETFs. You don't get that level of mainstream adoption for something that's, quote, banned. The truth is, most countries are moving toward regulation, not prohibition. They're figuring out how they can tax and grow with these networks, not how they can eliminate them. So the next time someone tells you that Bitcoin is banned, ask them to explain why you can buy it on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, there are plenty of legitimate questions and criticisms about Bitcoin. It's still an evolving technology and monetary system. But these persistent myths prevent meaningful discussion about the real challenges and opportunities. Whether Bitcoin ultimately succeeds as global monetary infrastructure depends on many different things: technical development, regulatory environments, adoption curves, as well as other technologies that may still come to pass. But what's clear is that Bitcoin isn't going away. If anything, it's becoming more integrated into the global financial system every single day. Major institutions are building Bitcoin infrastructure. Nations are developing Bitcoin strategies. And at Abundant Minds, we're focused on professional Bitcoin mining because it allows our clients to acquire Bitcoin at a significant discount to market prices, often 30 to 90% off of what you would pay on an exchange. And we believe that regardless of short-term price movements, building Bitcoin infrastructure is positioning our clients for long-term success. So if you found this helpful, follow us at Abundant Minds on social for more Bitcoin educational content. And if you're interested in learning how professional mining can help you acquire Bitcoin at a discount, visit abundantminds.com to schedule a consultation. The next time someone repeats one of these myths to you, don't get frustrated. Just share this video with them and help close the knowledge gap. Because the biggest risk with Bitcoin isn't volatility or regulation. It's simply not understanding it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.